It's time for another round of 49ers Intel, the behind the scenes of scoop from 49ers training camp day 2. Yesterday's show, we had some fun, went through everything. Trey Lance's good performance on day 1. Sam Darnold was out on the field. Brandon Ayuk dominating people. The 49ers defense looking aggressive. I have to say, newly aggressive under Steve Wilkes and more. Well, that was day 1. Now it's day 2. And yes, Brock Purdy was back on day 2. Here's visual evidence. This is my article. It's up on The Athletic. You could see the headline. Brock Purdy shows a strong arm in his 49ers return, but there is some rust to knock off. That's the gist of it. We're going to get into the weeds here. I'll get in deep into Brock Purdy's performance. I've got a whole notepad worth of stuff here that I'm going to go through that we're going to talk about, just bottom of the roster stuff. We're going to have the Marcelino McCrary ball discussion because he had a nice pass breakup today. This is going to be fun. We're going to have a chance to magnify what the 49ers did in a way that no other place on the internet, no other place on YouTube does. But first, be sure to check out the article. The link is in the description. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the link right now, put it into the comments section. Everybody can prepare their questions. I'm going to take them a little bit later because you know the drill. First, we watch the highlights from practice. Then we move on to analysis. And then we move on to your questions with a look at the 49ers roster. So without further ado, 49ers Intel Day 2. Let's play the highlights from the 49ers. Kyle Juszczyk making a catch. There's Brock Purdy throwing. You're going to get Trey Lance with that new tighter release. Danny Gray made a catch during practice today as well. There's Sam Darnold, who might have had the best day out of the quarterbacks today. Better day than Brock Purdy, more efficient day than Trey Lance as well. Jawan Jennings, big catch. He was fired up. This was the biggest play of practice. That was a throw from Sam Darnold to Brandon Ayuk, who made a great adjustment on the football, came back to get it. That was about a 40-yard gain. Brock Purdy, play action, hit Brandon Ayuk on the crosser. There he is, signaling first down. Braden Willis, the rookie tight end, seemed to be doing well here in their first couple days. I actually wrote a little bit about them in this morning's article, which I could put up on the screen. It was a good piece with George Kittle. There's Marcelino McCrary ball, knocking the ball away from Ty Davis Price. And here you have an undrafted free agent running back, Kalon LeBourne, with a nice catch out of the backfield. Brandon Allen gets some shine with this completion to Ray McLeod. As you can tell, that was a long catch and run. It was a busy day at 49ers camp. Lance going downfield, knocked away, almost intercepted there. Samuel Womack wearing the 0 should have had it. After that pass breakup, you thought that might have been a pick. Ill-advised throw from Lance over the middle of the field, but he gets away with it. Not an interception, although he won't get away with it in the film room. I'm sure that Kyle Shanahan will have a few words about that. So hopefully you enjoyed the highlights from today. This covers it in, I think, more detail writing-wise. Brock Purdy shows off his strong arm and 49ers return, but there's rust to knock off. And there's one more piece here that I want to show you. And, you know, we could just open it up right now. You can click on my author page on The Athletic. This came out in the morning, so I haven't had a chance to talk about it in a video. But I wrote this yesterday, came out this morning. This is George Kittle speaking yesterday on the 49ers sense of urgency. One of his quotes, which is actually the headline in the piece, is, "We understand the window could be closing." George Kittle said that, yeah, you know, this is the reality of the NFL. The 49ers are in a crowded cap situation next year because they've paid so many star players. I think it will be possible to surf the wave. I've talked about this a lot, and keep the team good indefinitely. If the 49ers do what they need to do as far as yielding and just finding good production out of lower round picks and bargain bin free agents. That's what's gotten them to this point. They've done a good job in those lower rounds. They've done a good job developing signees. Arden Key is a great example. They're going to try to do the same thing with Cleveland Farrell this year. Well, that's Chris Kaceric's work, obviously. But if the 49ers do that, then they can afford to pay a solid and growing core of star players. But at some point, even if you ride that wave as long as you can ride it, at some point, those star players are going to get older, right? George Kittle is turning 30 in October. Trent Williams is 35 this season. So at some point, that star core is not going to be the star core that it was in its prime. And I'm not saying that the 49ers won't get prime Trent Williams this year because every indication from the past 3 seasons indicates that they will. I'm not saying that they won't get prime George Kittle this year because he's coming off of a career high 12 touchdown season. So it's very possible that the 49ers will get prime years out of all their A-listers this year. And that's all fun and games. That's all great to say, but you can't ignore reality. At some point, these guys won't be in their primes anymore. And that's what George Kittle was referring to in this article, where he said, we understand the window could be closing. At any time, it could be closing. Contracts start to get closer to their expiration date. The cap becomes a reality. The football executives up in the front office determine, hey, we need to part ways with this guy. We need to make this change to the roster. This particular group of players that the 49ers are fielding in this 2023 season, they're only going to get this shot together once. Because as we know, the roster is going to change markedly from season to season, at least amongst the B-listers. And we'll see how long the window stays open for the A-listers. So that was the gist of the article with George Kittle. If you want to check that one out, I'm going to copy and paste it. I'm going to put it into the chat section right now. Maybe Mike can put this one in the description as well. Mike, if you can do that, if you can link to the George Kittle article in case people want to check that out. And then obviously the Brock Purdy article is the one that came out today. So you could just go to The Athletic. You could sign up for like $2 a month. And this is your deepest, most accurate 49ers coverage around. That and these videos, which obviously go hand in hand. They go together. I talk about my articles on these videos. All right, so let's get to it. And maybe we can even get to some stats. But I'll tell you this, the headlining story, and as you can see, the headline is there in my article, is that Brock Purdy is back. And he's throwing with his pre-surgery strength. Everybody needs to calm down and breathe a little bit. I understand it's, again, a total war on the internet. There are people that are extremely irrational. There are people that just don't get it. I would even go as far to say that there are people that are delusional. They're delusional because they don't recognize this 49ers quarterback situation for what it is. And what it is the 49ers trying to build as strong of a room as possible. It only makes sense, again, the season after they lost all their quarterbacks, including Brock Purdy to injury, and therefore lost the NFC Championship game. You always react to something bad that's happened to you in a way that should try to at least address the bad thing that happened to you, right? So if the 49ers lost all their quarterbacks last year, they need to move forward insulating the quarterback room. It's a normal reaction. And that's why they're playing 4 guys at practice right now. That's why they're playing Brock Purdy as QB1, Trey Lance and Sam Darnold splitting second-team snaps, and Brandon Allen splitting third-team snaps. You just saw in Cincinnati today, Joe Burrow went down. They're hoping it's not as serious as it initially looked like it could have been. But it's just, what a startling reminder of how fickle this can all be. Guess who Joe Burrow's backup was last year? Brandon Allen, the 49ers' 4th-string quarterback. The 49ers are sitting on a luxury in that their 4th-string quarterback was the backup, the number 2 to Joe Burrow last year. They are sitting on option power. There are people on the internet upset that Brandon Allen is getting snaps at training camp. The 49ers would be idiotic to throw away one of their good quarterback options before they have to. We learned the extreme advantages of option power last year when the 49ers kept Jimmy Garoppolo until the very last minute, and then they were able to re-sign Jimmy Garoppolo, and then he saved their season after Trey Lance went down in week 2. I mean, there's so many illustrations right in the face of 49ers fans that say, keep the quarterbacks, keep a good quarterback. It's the most important position. He's going to be a valuable chip for you at some point, even if it doesn't seem so right now. And to me, it seems so right now. To me, it's obvious that you want to keep all your quarterbacks, develop all your quarterbacks, make sure that room is as robust as possible. Again, nobody would argue with the 49ers having a ton of talented running backs. Nobody would argue with the 49ers having a ton of talented wide receivers. So why are they arguing with the 49ers having a ton of talented quarterbacks? They have got potential in that room. The quarterback position is more important than those other rooms at the end of the day. And that's why they're fostering it. And that's why it's totally okay. So that's why I say some people are delusional. They're delusional and they're tribalistic. Tribalistic means that you're just going to find your camp, you're going to find your tribe, and you're just going to stick with that and screw everybody else. You're going to say, I love Trey Lance, but I hate Brock Purdy. I hate Sam Darnold. And, you know, all that you advocate for is for the good of your position. You want to be right more than you want the 49ers to be good from a fan's perspective, right? We see so much of that. We see it the other direction too. We see some people dig in on Brock Purdy. They don't like anybody else. They don't like Sam Darnold. They don't like Trey Lance. Brandon Allen probably isn't a threat to them. That thinking is not compatible with the way that the 49ers are trying to build a football team. The 49ers are trying to build a football team that is as strong as possible and can win as many games as possible, despite the rigors and the setbacks that happen during a typical NFL season. And last season might have been a bit atypical for the 49ers, right? But they got down all the way to quarterback 5 by the end of it. And quarterback 5, unfortunately, was Christian McCaffrey. So as they try to build this robust quarterback room, the 49ers have to look at the big picture with Brock Purdy. And the big picture here is that he is healthy and throwing at full strength. And I saw this with my own eyes today, just 4.5 months after he underwent surgery. This is significant because let's go back through the past several months. Purdy gets hurt on January 29th against the Philadelphia Eagles. The 49ers fear the worst. Fans fear the worst. And then the worst does come down. It's a ruptured UCL. It's a torn elbow ligament. It's an injury that pitchers in baseball deal with that often has to go through Tommy John surgery. And Tommy John surgery puts guys on the shelf for a year plus. So people, in the immediate aftermath of this injury to Brock Purdy, people were saying, he could miss the entire 2023 season. And then, a few days after the injury, we start getting the preliminary prognosis, right? And there's hope from Brock Purdy's camp and from the 49ers that instead of undergoing full Tommy John surgery, he'll be able to try the new technique called the internal brace procedure. First tried on an NFL quarterback, by the way, with Nick Mullins, who suffered the same injury, a torn UCL in 2020, playing for the 49ers. So the internal brace is what Purdy is hoping can be installed into his arm so he doesn't have to undergo full Tommy John. This is back in February. That's now 5 months ago or so, 5 to 6 months ago, right? And to be 100% sure, the 49ers have to allow the doctor, who's Dr. Keith Meister, the orthopedist for the Texas Rangers, one of the renowned elbow specialists in the world. He has to be able to get into the elbow surgically and look around and say, hey, okay, yes, internal brace works here. I don't need to do a full Tommy John reconstruction. Remember that this was delayed throughout all of February and part of March because Purdy's elbow was too swollen. Meister couldn't get in because it was too swollen. They had to wait for the post-injury swelling to subside. So just rewind back to February and how nervous people were because Purdy's surgery kept on getting pushed back. All the way till March 10th, right? They finally were able to put him under the knife on March 10th. They were able to go in. The swelling had subsided. And that's when Keith Meister decided, okay, I don't need to do Tommy John here. Full reconstruction, not necessary. Let me put in the internal brace. The problem is that it was already March 10th by the time he did that. And they were spitballing that it'd be 6 months from that point for a QB to return. But lo and behold, 4.5 months later, Brock Purdy was on that practice field today. I saw deep throws that he overshot, which I think is a good sign from a physical perspective. You'd rather have him overthrowing receivers than underthrowing receivers coming off of elbow reparation, right? I saw velocity. His most impressive throw was an absolute heat-seeking missile that Brandon Ayuk skied up to get. And I saw full confidence from Brock Purdy. I'm not saying that he was particularly efficient or accurate today, and I'll get to that in a bit, but physically, we need to sit back and just appreciate where we are in the large picture of things, analyzing this, right? Brock Purdy we're talking about Brock Purdy misfiring, throwing too deep, throwing too high, going 3 of 10 with an interception. We're talking about him doing all those things just 4.5 months after he had an internal brace installed to repair a ruptured elbow, after it was initially expected to take about 6 months. So, nothing crazy happened during the rehab process that accelerated Purdy a month or two. He just hit every single checkpoint, and just into these prognoses, they build a little extra time because they anticipate that somebody's going to have a setback. And Purdy didn't have a setback. He joked today, and it wasn't really a joke. He said, I just got really good sleep. And that's huge toward injury recovery. Your tendons, your ligaments, your muscles, everything is going to regenerate a lot better if you're getting good sleep. So good sleep, hard work, dedication. Brock Purdy powered through, and now he's back. And I think that's the important takeaway from today is that physically he's there. Is he there from a sharpness standpoint? Of course not. He was absolutely rusty. And we can open up our spreadsheet here to take a look at 49ers quarterbacks in training camp. Let me get this open really fast. Get the Google away for you. 49ers QBs at 2023 training camp. We could take a look at the statistics from today. So we could talk about how rusty Purdy was. We can compare his performance to Trey Lance's, to Sam Darnold's, and to Brandon Allen's. So here we go. This is 49ers quarterbacks at 2023 training camp. You can view this on my Twitter. In fact, maybe I'll even scroll down to it right now and retweet it. So it's at the top of the page. Lombardi himself. So check it out. Trey Lance, we're going to start with Brock Purdy, was 3 of 10 with a pick. Trey Lance was 2 of 5. Sam Darnold was 3 of 5. Brandon Allen was 4 of 5. I've got the notes section over here on the right. I said that Purdy was rusty in his return, but he looked physically strong, as evidenced by his overthrows and as evidenced by some throws with velocity. So that's the big deal there. He threw an interception to Sean Gibson on his second pass. Purdy's first pass was a drop into the flat from the tight end, Ross Dwelly. Lance then threw what should have been a pick. It was deflected, and then it went off of Samuel Womack's hands. Lance threw that dropped interception. That was in the same round of reps. First, it was Purdy manning the first team, and then right after that, Trey Lance took over for the second team, and he almost threw that interception. I thought that Brandon Allen was the sharpest 49ers quarterback on the day, and Sam Darnold made the nicest throw. It was a deep out to Deebo Samuel. The biggest play of the day was the Brandon Ayuk play that we saw in the 49ers highlight reel when he came back to catch that 40-yard ball from Sam Darnold. And we should also mention that there were 2 drops on Brock Purdy throws today. The one from Ross Dwelly that I just mentioned. And then there was a throw that we saw Brock Purdy really, I don't want to say force, but he squeezed it in there right over the linebacker, Demetrius Flanagan-Foles. And it got to Brandon Ayuk, and it was really risky, it seemed, from my vantage point. But it got right over Flanagan-Foles, and Brandon Ayuk had a chance to catch it, and he dropped it. So maybe in an alternate parallel universe, Brock Purdy went 5 of 10 today, but that's about as good as it's going to get. The bottom line is that he was indeed rusty. There is no way around it. Brock Purdy was rusty. Brock Purdy acknowledged that he was rusty. You can read my article where he actually just straight up says so, but there's a reason for it. Purdy wasn't a participant in OTAs. He obviously hadn't practiced since before the NFC Championship game. Football is, especially Kyle Shanahan's offense, is a parade of timing, trust, a grasp of nuances. All these things, it takes a while to come back. This is why they do training camp, to be able to iron out all those kinks. And for Brock Purdy, well, some of the kinks that Trey Lance got to iron out in OTAs, Sam Darnold too, Brandon Allen as well, Brock Purdy didn't have that benefit. So it's going to take him probably a few practices. The 49ers want him up to speed a little bit later in training camp. When the pads come on Monday, he'll probably be a little further along than he was today. And then when they head to Vegas to have the joint practices with the Raiders, Brock Purdy will probably be a little further along than he was today, so on and so forth. So that's Brock Purdy's day. I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, I think that a lot of people kind of jump onto what they think is a gotcha moment, but the only person that you're telling on is yourself in that situation for being biased. If you want the unbiased look, and that's what I'm good at giving, you have to see Brock Purdy for what his performance is worth, and that is a rusty performance following 4.5 months of inactivity. And then you have to look at Trey Lance's performance for what it's worth. And Trey Lance today wasn't good against the second-team defense. We saw some inaccuracy again for Trey Lance. Well, hell, we saw inaccuracy in the first day of camp during the individual drills, but I don't hold that against the quarterback if he does well in the 11-on-11 portion. And Lance was good. He was 5 of 6 in the 11-on-11 portion. He was accurate. He delivered good throws on the deep outs. But today, wasn't nearly as good from Trey Lance. He forced the throw over the middle, should have been intercepted, completed only 2 of 5 passes, didn't really use his legs. I mean, the 49ers defense showed up to play today. And I thought that both of the first 2 quarterbacks that we saw for the 49ers, Purdy and Lance, just weren't up to the task. Now, that could change moving forward, but we're not here just to blow smoke about the 49ers. We're here to say that the defense is significantly ahead of the offense, as has been the case in the past at this part of the camp. And both Purdy and Lance are going to have to be better moving forward. I think they will be better moving forward, but I don't think that today was a particularly impressive performance. If you combine the numbers, it was 5 of 15 for Purdy and Lance. 5 of 15 is not going to get you very far. Now, the 49ers did have, it seemed, a little bit of success on the ground, and it's hard to tell because pads aren't on. They're not tackling live to the ground. But Christian McCaffrey made his camp debut today. He didn't participate in day one. He puts in such effort. Even when they bottle Christian McCaffrey up near the line of scrimmage, he makes sure to sprint forward 40 yards after the play to get his conditioning in. I mean, the guy is there to work. And between McCaffrey, Ty Davis-Price, Jordan Mason, and Elijah Mitchell, by the way, we're going to find out what the weights are on Davis-Price and Jordan Mason. It looks like both of those guys might have cut a few pounds to really work on their speed this year. Or it just might be an optical illusion because they don't have pads on right now. But the 49ers running backs are looking spry. They're looking like they can move, and they are moving. And there are some big gainers in there that you can't be sure about because pads aren't on yet and the tackling isn't happening. But it seems to me that they're going to have some real explosiveness on the ground. That being said, it really does set the table for the real story of today, and that's the 49ers defense. Absolutely vibing. Can't count how many times I saw Steve Wilks pumping his fist. You saw Chris Kasarik fired up. You saw the defense dancing out on the field. I mean, they were making play after play after play. I just said it, 5 out of 15 for Lance and Purdy combined. That means the DBs are doing something. That means the pass rush is doing something. Now, pads aren't on yet. Offensive line can't protect itself. But, one thing that I think is really working for the defense right now is the blitzing action. And that's all Steve Wilks. And I know I talked about this earlier, but the last time we saw Wilks as a defensive coordinator with the Cleveland Browns in 2019, they blitzed 38% of the time. It was number 5 in the NFL. The 49ers under DeMeco Ryans last year blitzed only 21% of the time. Number 20 in the NFL. I'm talking to people. The 49ers are going to be blitzing much, much more often. The first 2 practices are every indication of that. Steve Wilks is heating it up with the blitzes, giving the 49ers offense all they can handle. Thought Trey Lance did a good job beating at least one of the blitzes on the first day of practice on Wednesday. I thought Sam Darnold beat one of the blitzes in this practice on Thursday. The play to Brandon Ayuk was beating a blitz downfield. That was, it was one of those plays under duress. Darnold couldn't get everything under his throw because the pressure was there, but teamwork made it happen. Brandon Ayuk broke back to the football. The point is that the 49ers defense is forcing the team's offense to make exceptional plays to beat it downfield. And Ayuk is a guy that makes exceptional play after exceptional play, so they're able to at least move the ball sporadically. But this is still about the defense and the potential that they have. And Steve Wilks, the 49ers' new defensive coordinator, talked after practice today, and he said this is the most talented front that he's ever had. And that's interesting because he doesn't even have Nick Bosa in the building yet. No update on the Bosa front, by the way, but with Bosa, when he comes, and he will come. You don't have to worry about that. But when he does sign and when everything is said and done with Nick Bosa, this defense is a true chance to be special. I've gotten 2 days of looking at Drake Jackson now. He's probably a good 20 pounds stronger than last year. Trent Williams is talking about the muscle that Drake Jackson has put on. And Steve Wilks, somebody today, and this is a common refrain online where people don't quite grasp how the 49ers feel about their team. That's where I hope I can fill the gaps. I hope I can really illustrate what's going on in the building with the 49ers. A lot of people online are like, the 49ers don't have an edge rusher. I don't trust Drake Jackson. I don't trust Cleveland Farrell, whatever. They need to sign somebody, or they need to move Eric Armstead out to defensive end. When are they moving Eric Armstead out to defensive end? I get that question like twice a week. Well, we got our answer today again, and I've given you the answer before, and the 49ers have given it to you before, but today Steve Wilks unequivocally said, no, we like our group of defensive ends, and Eric Armstead is staying inside unless we have a massive rash of injuries. So Derek Armstead is going to be playing defensive tackle because the 49ers like their ends, and they like their ends even with Nick Bosa not in town. Now, obviously, Nick Bosa is extremely important to this team, but I just use that as an illustration. This team is extremely confident with not only the frontline power it has on defense, but also the depth that it has there. Samuel Womack III is a player who last year, I wouldn't say that he was lost as a rookie, but I mean, he played really well in the preseason, right? Because he was playing against backups and he earned a spot onto the roster. But in the regular season, he wasn't a world beater. Samuel Womack III is everywhere now this year. I mean, it looks like he's really matured into that second year player. The long arms that I talked about coming out of Toledo, which made his athletic profile so exciting, combined with the 4.3 40-yard dash. I mean, it seems that Womack, I mean, a couple times Brandon Ayuk will get the best of him. Deebo Samuel might get the best of him, but then he's breaking passes up. Then he's getting in people's faces. He dropped that one interception early on in today's practice. I mean, that's a piece that you look at and you say, wow, that's a depth piece for the 49ers. And he's showing up. That's what you want. You want the depth pieces to show up. We look at the roster, and I could open it right now. And this is something that we talked about heading into camp. One of my big questions heading into camp was, what are the 49ers going to do about depth in the secondary? Who's going to step up in that secondary? Because you've got Charvarius Ward, you have Deommodore Lenoir, you have Isaiah Oliver. They're happy with all three of those veterans who are going to be starting for them. But what are you going to do about the second corner position, especially after Darrell Luter Jr. got placed on PUP because he injured himself in the final OTA practice? Well, somebody between these guys, Ambry Thomas and Samuel Womack, is going to have to step up. And I think Samuel Womack absolutely has stepped up. Ambry got beat deep in day one by Danny Gray, but Talanoa Hufanga bailed him out coming over the top. Ambry has made some plays, though. And Ambry looks bigger. He looks stronger. He might be ready to play that part of a 49ers cornerback, 49ers defensive back that is ready to provide legitimate depth to the guys at the front. And that's what it's going to take for this defense to truly vibe moving into the regular season. It's not just about the starting 11. It's about the depth. And you heard Steve Wilks so complimentary of the depth today. He hasn't seen anything like it in his coaching career, and he's had a long coaching career. Steve Wilks has seen a lot on defense. That brings me to my next point about this defense. Steve Wilks, you know, with the exotic packages that he's going to bring to the back end, and with the specialized coaching he's going to give the 49ers secondary, I can give you one example today. Brandon Ayuk made a nice catch on the really hot throw from Brock Purdy. It was a laser beam. Ayuk went up to get it. Charvarius Ward was draped all over him, but it was good throw and catch. You have to tip your cap. The first person out, you know, coaching Charvarius Ward, like hands-on coaching, talking about what he could have done better on that play, was Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator. So, you know, we always talk about the 49ers as either a rush over coverage or a coverage over rush team, and it's been rush over coverage throughout most of the Shanahan tenure. Last year, we saw it more balanced out. Well, this year they signed Javon Hargrave. So with Bosa, Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Drake Jackson, a deep defensive line, you would think they're going to be able to get after the quarterback. You would think the rush component will be there. But the 49ers back end, I think, has a chance to be really good too, because of the talent they have there and because the coaching that's there to develop not only the frontline talent and the depth. And I've been very, very impressed with the way that Steve Wilks has been coaching in that hands-on fashion out on the football field. All right, let's talk about some of the standouts, some of the names from practice after I get a little drink of water here. So, got the notepad. Going to get right to it. First note I had from practice today, Christian McCaffrey back with full energy. And then Elijah Mitchell, 25. Elijah Mitchell, remember he was out a little bit during OTAs, was dealing with a health issue. He's 100%. 49ers with Purdy on the first possession ran one of the straight pitchbacks, which I love that play with the running backs they have. It's not a pitch left or pitch right. It's a pitch vertical. You go vertical back with the pitch. It really gives the running back a lot of time to survey which hole he's going to try to dart through. I think with fast running backs, and it started with Raheem Mostert, Shanahan liked to run the vertical pitch back. With fast running backs, it's a great play. They ran the vertical pitch back to Elijah Mitchell, who had a filthy cutback. And it would have been a big gainer if the, chains had been there and had this been an actual scrimmage situation. 49ers aren't at that part of camp yet, but I was impressed with that Mitchell run. Then when Trey Lance took over, he threw that near interception. And right after that, Lance fumbled a snap. But no, I don't think it was Lance's fault. Remember, Lance was working with the second team today, so he had to switch centers. He wasn't working with Jake Brendel. Keith Ishmael was the second team center. And I never saw the ball reach Trey Lance's hands, which normally means it's the center's fault on the exchange. And then I thought I saw Keith Ishmael kind of saying, my bad, pointing to his chest. So Keith Ishmael said, he was culpable for that fumbled snap, but it's something to look out for. If you're the 49ers, they've had center issues in the past when it's gone beyond the first stringer. They've got to make sure that second string center is not snapping poorly, not snapping low in the shotgun. I saw a poor snap that Trey Lance had to field a little bit later. It's really important to iron out all those kinks during training camp. All right, then Javon Kinlaw. He's impressing the hell out of a lot of people around the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan mentioned it on Wednesday. This guy is, for the first time in his NFL career, is coming up on 1 year of no health setbacks. So he's looking, to me, he looks stronger. Not necessarily bigger because I think he's leaned out a little bit, but Kinlaw is just looking stronger, more athletic. And with that big of a frame, if you could add a little bit more speed, well, there's going to be more power. There's going to be more force there, right? There's been a lot of force. There was a run left today that Javon Kinlaw just absolutely blew up, fired everybody up. He made a couple plays that were really impressive. And, it's a contract year for Kinlaw. It's personal for him. He's trying to overcome so many injury setbacks. So it's been frustrating, but I think that he's really motivated to show that injuries have indeed been what has been holding him back. And he doesn't have the pressure of having to deliver against, first units over and over again, fresh first units over and over again. He can come off the bench now behind Javon Hargrave, behind Eric Armstead, and he can clean up against offensive lines that are tired of blocking the two guys that I just mentioned. So I think that Javon Kinlaw has a hell of an opportunity in front of him this season. And I can tell you that he has been very, very impressive through a couple practices. There was one play today where Javon Kinlaw blew up the line, and then George Odom, 49ers backup safety, kind of came crashing through for a tackle for loss. It was a nice play. Another tackle for loss against the run with Austin Bryant. Austin Bryant, 49ers signed in free agency. He played for the Lions the past 3 years. Clemson product, was Cleveland Farrell's teammate at Clemson. And when I first got a look at Austin Bryant in OTAs, I was like, well, this guy's legs, his calves are a little skinny. He's got a funky body type. Got skinnier legs, but he's got a big, strong upper body. And I was like, okay, he's going to be an edge rushing specialist. This is the kind of guy that Chris Kasarik is going to use to get after the quarterbacks on third and long. But no, Austin Bryant actually plays the run really well. I don't know how he does it. I always thought that you'd have to have a little bit of a thicker base to play the run really well. But today he had a tackle for loss. I saw in OTAs, it seems that he's playing the run well. I mean, the pads aren't on yet, granted. So that might change things. But I talked to some people and they say, yeah, Austin Bryant sets a good edge. He set a good edge in Detroit. The tape showed that he set a solid edge in Detroit. So that's an interesting development for me. Saw Tay Martin. I know I'm moving back to the other side. Tay Martin had a nice catch in 7-on-7s. Tay's been frequently compared to Kendrick Bourne and Kendrick's time with the 49ers. Not a bad thing. Tay is now even wearing the old number 84. And then Kalon LeBourne. You saw Kalon LeBourne in the 49ers highlight reel, number 36. Guy's built like a bowling ball, but he had a nice little sweep today where he moves fast. It looked like he got shot out of a cannon, but a nice cutback on that sweep. And then he had the catch that you saw in the highlight reel. He's an undrafted free agent at running back. I think Kalon LeBourne is the type of player that the 49ers are going to find to be very valuable for them down the stretch. Because in all honesty, unless somebody gets hurt, he's fighting for a practice squad spot. But practice squad spots at the running back position for the 49ers are coveted spots, extremely coveted spots, because you're one injury away from being plugged into real play time in a Kyle Shanahan offense surrounded by superstars. And as we know, that can earn you some money. Jeff Wilson started as an undrafted free agent, practice squatter, called up, boom, 2018, ready to go. Matt Breida, undrafted free agent, made the roster, boom, numbers for Matt Breida. I mean, this running back position for the 49ers, you can earn some money playing running back for the 49ers, and history tells us you'll probably be needed at some point. So LeBourne today, it's him and Awat, Ronald Awat, who are fighting for a running back spot, most likely in the practice squad. But don't let that fool you. That can end up being a spot that contributes to the 49ers team down the stretch. All right. Let me see if I missed anything on my notes before I open this up to questions. I said that nice pass to Deebo Samuel was probably the highlight today. Obviously, you saw the two bombs that Brock Purdy missed. One to Debo, one to Jawan Jennings. You said, I just don't have rapport with those guys right now. I got to get that rapport back. And that makes a lot of sense. And that's why our headlining story was Brock Purdy just needs to get his rapport back. He's going to knock off that rust. Freaking out just makes you sound like you don't know what you're talking about at this stage. And yeah, there are a lot of people that are very delusional about this 49ers quarterback situation. If I needed to summarize it, it's that Brock Purdy is 49ers quarterback one. Anything can always happen if somebody blows Kyle Shanahan away, but that doesn't mean it's likely to happen. And some people are living in complete fantasy land, thinking that one day Kyle Shanahan's going to wake up and think that Trey Lance is better than Brock Purdy, which isn't close to being the case at this point. Just the amount of responses that I get on, so I read like 5% of them, but just in that small sample, it's like, what? Everybody wake up. Kyle Shanahan is saying what the 49ers are doing. Kyle Shanahan is broadcasting what the 49ers are doing. He's done it for a long time. And just because Brock Purdy has one day after 4.5 months of not practicing where he goes 3 of 10, nobody's going to change their minds. No competition is going to open wide up. It's going to be the same as it always was. And that's Purdy in the driver's seat, competition always happening on any NFL team at any position, and the 49ers trying to build the strongest quarterback room possible. With that being said, it's time for a 49ers Q&A and time for me to get some water. So I get that you guys have probably been arguing in the comment section while I've been talking. I'll give you a chance to start asking your questions. And I will start answering them as soon as they're here. The studio's coming along. As you can see, the jerseys have now been framed, but they haven't been hung up yet. It's because we're still waiting on a new ring light. It's going to improve the lighting, and we're going to have really cool lighting. So it's a makeshift setup, but I think it looks better than yesterday. And I'm just trying to improve every day. 1% better every day will lead you to big time gains over a long period of time. Yes, Spencer Burford does look in better shape this year. I even asked Trent Williams about that. Looks in better shape, but Trent said that mentally he's in a lot better shape. He's not a rookie that's swimming in the system anymore. He's got a lot better grasp of it. And Trent worked a lot with Spencer this offseason and last offseason, even flew Spencer Burford as a rookie out to 49ers camp on his private jet. The team can stay in a hotel during camp, but they don't have to. It used to be that they had to, but it's no longer mandatory. Purdy is Jimmy 2.0. Well, that would be a really good thing for the 49ers. You don't want a good quarterback? I feel that you're saying this derogatorily, but I mean, the debate has been settled. Jimmy Garoppolo was a really good quarterback for the 49ers who just got hurt too much. And if the 49ers could have Jimmy Garoppolo healthy and at a cheap cost, they would take it. And you say that's Brock Purdy. And I agree with you. But I don't agree with the way that you're probably framing it. I don't want to put words into your mouth. because a lot of people will say this as if it's a bad thing. But listen, Jimmy Garoppolo was a top 5 efficiency guy for the 49ers when he was healthy. So if somebody can run Kyle Shanahan's system like that, you're going to want somebody who could run Kyle Shanahan's system like that. You're going to want that player. And Brock Purdy, there wasn't much of a drop off in terms of efficiency once he took over yesterday. Well, today. What? Sorry. That was a slip. Once he took over last year, there wasn't much of a drop off last year. Last year, once he took over for Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm tired. It's camp. I'm grinding. Yesterday was the day Purdy didn't play at practice. Go figure. It's a good question. I would think that Brock is still roommates with Nick on Alfredo. He's still on a rookie contract. It's not like Brock has signed that multi-million-dollar deal yet. So maybe we'll see another Christmas card from Nick Zakel, Alfredo Gutierrez, and Brock Purdy. Which rookies am I going to be keeping a close eye on during training camp? Well, I've got the rookies highlighted in yellow here. Obviously, we're keeping an eye on Jake Moody, who's got a hell of a leg. He just blasted 4 field goals today. I mean, the last one was from 51 yards, and it cleared the crossbar by a lot. Jair Brown was a safety on the play where Brandon Ayuk caught that 40-yarder from Sam Darnold over the top. Keeping an eye on him. I haven't seen all too much yet from the linebackers in this camp, D. Winters and Jalen Graham. I think they're probably still swimming in new information. Once pads come on, we'll start to get an idea of can Robert Beal rush the passer with his athleticism. You know, our friend Larry, who was on the show last week, loves Spencer Wagee up here, defensive lineman. He loves the 166 10-yard split. I guess that was Aldon Smith's 10-yard split. So, I think Wagee is a guy that the 49ers, he could throw his name into the mix in that D-end rotation. And you know what? Defensive ends are going to have more opportunities than normal the longer that Nick Bosa is out. So that could end up being a good thing for some of these guys, the younger guys like Spencer Wagee, to really make a name for themselves. And then there's Deshaun Jameson. And I'm only on the defensive side of the football right now. But Deshaun Jameson, I mean, we talk about corner depth and we talk about Darrell Luter being hurt. We talk about special teams being able to earn you a spot on the roster. Deshaun Jameson can do all those things, and he looked good in OTAs, and I'm keeping an eye on him here during training camp. Offensive side of the football, Ronnie Bell for sure. Braden Willis, Cameron Latu. I mean, none of these guys are going to be starters, but they all have a chance to make the football team. And I already mentioned Kalan Laborn, who looks like a good candidate for the practice squad at running back for the 49ers. Off subject, had I ever met Mike Leach? So I would say, unfortunately, Mike Leach has passed away. Yes, I knew Mike Leach. Actually, had a really nice dinner with Mike Leach in 2000. I want to say 15 or 2016. I had an old Apple Watch story with Mike Leach. There are Apple Watches on all of our tables. It was the TV partners dinner. I was working for ESPN at the time. So it was the TV partners dinner. And it was in Beverly Hills. It was at Mastro's Steakhouse. It was before the Pac-12 season started. Mike Leach was the coach of Washington State. And we all got assigned to a table with a different Pac-12 coach. One that I was assigned to was Mike Leach. I sat right next to Mike Leach and we talked for like 3 hours at this dinner, and we went to the bar after and we kept on talking. And he knew, just as much about the history of Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic, as I do. And I'm a dual citizen of here and there, and I pride myself on my knowledge of history. And here's Mike Leach, a football coach who knows just as me. That's how smart this guy was. Anyway, at this dinner, they had a gift for all of us, and it was an Apple Watch that was waiting at your table. And each of the Apple Watches had a different color band. And we all took our Apple Watches out and we looked at the band. And, I started to put mine on, and Mike Leach next to me said, I don't like my color. I like your color a lot more. Can we switch? And I didn't like my band all that much either, but I was just planning to go on Amazon and get a leather band to replace it. I don't think Mike Leach knew that he could go on Amazon and replace his band. So I traded Apple Watches with Mike Leach. So up until like Margot got me this watch, This was our wedding gift, or my wedding gift. Really nice. Up until I got this watch a couple months ago, I was wearing that Apple Watch that originally belonged to Mike Leach before we traded. So that's just like a long roundabout story. But thanks for asking. Good stuff. That was in Beverly Hills a few years ago, and unfortunately, we lost Mike Leach too soon. It is a nice watch, huh? Really nice. It's an Oris. You could tell Margot Lombardi herself that you like the watch. We did that thing at the wedding where I didn't want a first look. I don't believe in first looks. Like, I think those are for social media. Sorry if you had a first look at your wedding, but I don't think that you should see your bride until she's walking down the aisle. So what we did is there was this door, like this half door, and we were both on opposite sides of it, and we gave each other gifts without seeing each other like 5 minutes before we got married. And that's how I came up with this watch right here. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing I pride myself on is being unbiased. It's really funny right now because there are so many people that are biased, that have clear biases, that are delusional about this quarterback situation. We'll just go out and say delusional is probably the word to put for some people. And social media can be a pretty vicious place, but they project, right? And they'll say, Lombardi's biased. When they actually are, the definition of projection is that's how they feel about themselves, makes them feel better to call the messenger biased. But if you ever see anybody that says that I'm biased against Trey Lance, you can kindly remind them that I was one of the very, very few public figures who recommended that the 49ers should draft Trey Lance and predicted that they would draft Trey Lance in 2021. Everybody else was on the Mac Jones train. But even before the 49ers traded up, I said, hey, you should look at this kid from North Dakota State. This is somebody that they might be moldable clay for the system. So, I mean, it would make me look really good if Trey Lance succeeded with the 49ers. But I also realize that stuff shifts in the NFL. Things change, injuries dictate shifting realities. And I think that's exactly what's happened with Trey. I still think he has a lot of potential, but I think that he's been derailed by a couple injuries. And while he was out, Brock Purdy showed that he's better than Trey Lance right now. And the 49ers have to go with who's better. It's a meritocracy. So, I mean, and they also have to go with a strong, robust quarterback room. So it's foolish to focus on one player. But the notion that, I'm biased, and so I appreciate you saying that, the unbiased and accurate part. The notion that I'm biased just isn't tethered in reality. And I guess a lot of people don't live in reality, but that's okay. But I've always really liked Trey Lance as a prospect. And, there's a reason why I recommended the 49ers should draft him really, really early on in the process. I thought that was the cost efficient way forward for the 49ers. When did I ever say that Brock Purdy is the starter no matter what? I am reporting what Kyle Shanahan is saying, which is that Brock Purdy is the likely 49ers starter based on the fact that he's higher in the pecking order. What is so hard to understand? Come back to reality. Stop living in your emotions. Live with us here in the factual world. Facts over feelings. You're letting your feelings dictate your comments, and your comments aren't looking very smart as a result. That's right. I think that's the gist of the problem. Some people just don't like to hear the truth. I'm going to sit here and tell it. That's fine. I told it with Jimmy Garoppolo. I told it with the 49ers offensive line. Back in 2019, I think I was the only person saying the 49ers need better pass protection. I said it in 2020. People just wanted to blame the quarterback. They got better in 2021. All of a sudden, it got trendy to start lashing out against the 49ers pass protection in 2022 when they were already a top 10 unit. And now, let's bash the right tackle situation. Why? You haven't even seen Colton McKivitz start at that position as the fixture at right tackle yet. The line, I mean, most models project the 49ers line to be a top 7 line in pass protection. So they've addressed that issue. They're getting better at it. They've poured a lot of resources into it. It just seems that some of the narratives surrounding the 49ers are always like 2 or 3 years behind. And once people get to it, it's no longer the issue that they're making it out to be, and then it just turns into this big circus, this big mess of criticism and complaints just to criticize and complain instead of pointed, smart discussion. So anyway, I hope that this channel is smart discussion, not just hysteria. 559. I love it. Who has the inside track to replace Aziz Al-Shire as the 49ers' third linebacker? Oren Burks has the initial designation, the veteran, but as camp really progresses, we'll start to see the rookies potentially emerge as D. Winters and Jalen Graham. I would say that Marcelino McCrary Ball's ahead of those guys as of right now. McCrary Ball had that pass breakup that I talked about today. Hell, maybe we could even play the highlights one more time. Why don't we do that right now? So we can watch some of this because you're going to see a pass breakup from Marcelino McCrary Ball. Also going to see Trey Lance. That's a nice release there from Lance. Nice quick release on the completion to Danny Gray. This, by the way, courtesy of the 49ers. Right up there on social media. Debo Samuel. There's Ambry Thomas. And 40 is McCrary Ball. Jawan Jennings fired up. Here's the deepest pass of practice. Darnold to Brandon Ayuk. Nice catch with Jair Brown, 27 there. Samuel Womack there as well. Brock Purdy. Brandon Ayuk. Crosser. Ayuk and Charvarius Ward. Chest to chest. There's Braden Willis, the rookie tight end. Trey Lance again. Another good abbreviated release. Ty Davis Price. Knocked away. There's Marcelino McCrary Ball. So there's your answer. I think that he might be your, I don't want to say favorite, but he's a contender for that third linebacker spot. That was Kalon LeBourne, 36th, undrafted rookie, catching the ball out of the backfield. Catch and run, Ray McLeod. Good stuff from the 49ers. I love when they post good sizzle reels like this. That's Trey Lance's near interception. Samuel Womack just couldn't hang on to it. But that was today. All right, everybody, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. And since some of you weren't aboard earlier, Mike put both of these links into the chat description. So go ahead and sign up for The Athletic right now. So you're going to subscribe to this channel, but you can go and check out the link in the subscription. There's the Brock Purdy article. Brock Purdy shows a strong arm in the 49ers return, but there's still rust to knock off. And then I also wrote a piece on George Kittle, which we'll go to right now this morning. Mike, I think, put that link in the chat section as well on the 49ers potentially closing window. So now's the time to just consume all the 49ers content you can. I promise you, this is the most accurate. This is the deepest coverage that you're going to have of the football team. I get online and I see like 8 different stat sets for quarterbacks. And I started tracking these stats a couple years ago, and I made sure to do them properly on this sheet right here so that there is no question about what happened. So again, follow us where everything is going to be accurate, where everything's going to be fair, where everything's going to be objective. You don't want to get caught up in the hailstorm of elsewhere. That's all I have to say. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Everybody have a good night. Hit that sub button and we'll talk to you very soon.